Before I introduce the first speaker, I just want to share a couple thoughts with you that are coming from my heart and what motivates me in terms of the work I do as a citizen activist first, as an elected official today, and I guess still a citizen activist. We talk a lot about vision. We talk a lot about the nuts and bolts of how to actually put these pieces together. We talk a lot about trying to get money out of Washington, D.C. But what this is about to me is about freedom and it's about equality. That's our work that we're doing. Freedom means being able to participate fully in the life of your community, getting access to opportunities like education, jobs, meeting your neighbors, meeting strangers. That's what freedom's about. But freedom, to me, doesn't have much value unless we talk about equality. Because it doesn't matter if you have freedom if you are shut out because of your income, because you're not mobile in the traditional ways we're mobile, you don't own a car, you're a child who can't get to the park because the park is not accessible because the sidewalks aren't there or it's too far away. So the work that we do is about creating communities where people can be free, and the people can be free because we provide the facilities that are accessible to everyone and everyone can enjoy that. And to me, that's why I do my work. Why do I talk about walking, biking, transit as part of sustainable communities? It's because they're communities that are therefore full of free people who are equal citizens with each other. I see it as our duty and your duty as Americans, whether you're an elected official, an activist, a public servant, to promote those ideas of freedom and equality. This is our country, it's our future, and there are those who will denigrate the work we do, who say that they are ones talking about freedom and equality, but this is what they talk about, which is taking away the resources and destroying those public structures that we have created over the last 100 years and our ancestors have created over the last 300 years, about creating communities where children can get around, where people can have access to good jobs, where the air is clean and the water's clean. And that's the work that we do. So keep that in your head, because that's what I think about in the midst of battles over who gets what money where and what's the zoning code going to say about this or that. It's about what are we trying to achieve here. We're trying to achieve a land of the brave, the free, and equal citizens. That's the editorial. Thank you. Now I want to welcome our chair of our host committee, again, Ron, to introduce our next speaker.
Rex, thanks for those great words. Well, welcome to day 3 of the family reunion. Good to see you there. You're still here enjoying our weather. It's my distinct pleasure, and I mean distinct personal pleasure, to introduce Bill Millar. Bill is the president of APTA, the American Public Transportation Association. You know when you go to the family reunion or the family gathering and the kids often are acting up and they're trying to draw attention to themselves? You know, they're the ones that everybody's kind of looking at, while the patriarch of the family kind of stands quietly off to the side and respectfully and properly earning the respect of everyone else that's there without drawing attention to himself. Well, Bill Millar is that patriarch of this family, of the transportation community that we all are part of. He was formerly for 13 years, he was in Pittsburgh as the executive director of the Port Authority of Allegheny County. But since 1996, Bill has served tirelessly as the leader of APTA, providing continuous communication, unparalleled effectiveness, and continuous communication in all ways, and in his tireless leadership in representing the best interests of this family of transportation advocates across the country. He has never demanded the spotlight, to the point where some of us, I think, have taken him for granted because he's always there representing our best interests, but never pointing it to himself. His signature, "Good morning," I'm sure is known to all of you, and if you haven't benefited from Bill's spirit, you're about to. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome to the stage Bill Millar, President of APTA, who will talk to us about the state of public transportation. Bill?
Wow, that was really nice. I like that. Well, after that, I guess I got to say good afternoon. I mean, apparently that's what I will be on my tombstone, will be good morning or good afternoon, I guess. Anyhow, Ron, that's a very touching and very, very nice introduction, and I thank you very, very much for that. Well, here we are. We've come home to the mothership together here in Portland to see what's going on, to get our fix, to learn what the latest things are, and to see how things are going and how each of us is doing. That's the way I think about this family gathering. And there are people that I don't see any time in the year except when I come to Revolution. And, you know, you sort of pick up in the middle of the last sentence where you were with that person. And that's kind of what this family is like, Ron. And thank you and the organizing committee. And let me associate myself with Rex's comments. I mean, I just thought those are right on. And while I hadn't really planned to talk too much about that, we got to make sure that we keep our messages current. And it is easy for us to talk the way we always have, but respond to those who would take away our message and make sure that we are expressing our views in a way that can be well heard. Because what we're doing is important to the future of the country, and I think Rex hit the proverbial nail on the head with that one. Well, I don't know how many revolutions I've been to, and I think this is, what, the 19th or something. I know I didn't make the first one, but I certainly have made most of them. So it is great to be back here. And, of course, while Ron was overly generous in his comments about me, I can't be generous enough about my comments about Earl Blumenauer. Did anybody enjoy his speech yesterday morning? Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about you, but for me, that is, you know, getting all filled up and pumped up, and it's just great to have Earl's leadership in so many ways and be so much help. And I don't know whether you all appreciate how much travel he does all over the country. He's not a guy who just stays in the 3rd District here in Oregon or just stays in Oregon. He goes all over to help. So I thought that one was really, really good. Well, my role here is, as always, to bring you up to date a little bit on what's going on in public transportation, talk about the state of the revolution from Transit's perspective, and maybe cover a few other items along the way, which we'll try to do. If there's, we all know the economy is not what any of us would wish it to be. We know that state and local governments have seen quite a decline in their income. We know that many private sector companies aren't in business anymore. We know it's a very tough time. And of course, that has affected public transportation as well. And since so many of you are involved so deeply in your communities, it wouldn't surprise me, as so many of you have come up and said to me, well, gee, my transit system unfortunately had to raise fares this year. My transit system had to cut service this year. My transit system had to lay off employees this year. Or my system had to delay some project, couldn't go forward. It is a reflection of the times that we're on, but it is not a permanent condition. But it is a very pervasive condition. Earlier this year, APTA did a survey of its members, and some 84% of our members who responded to the survey said they were taking one of those actions in response to decline in revenues. Now, I've been in the industry a long time. Next year will be my 40th year, if you can imagine that, for such a young guy. And I don't ever remember anything being 84% that has affected us in a negative way. But there's some good news starting to emerge out of those ashes. And I want to share some of that with you. You know, APTA keeps track of the statistics of our industry. We keep track of ridership, things of that sort. And there is a little bit of glimmer of hope in some of that kind of news. We all know that back in the year 2008, when gasoline was everywhere over $4 a gallon, some places $5 a gallon, we had record ridership. But we know eventually the recession caught up to us, and in the first quarter of 2009, we saw ridership start to decline. Well, that decline continued for some 5 quarters, but I'm happy to report that as of the second quarter of this year, in other words, April, May, June quarter, the ridership was up just a little bit, 0.1%, but I'll take anything up when you consider the difficult times that we're having. Certainly, I think there's no mystery to it. Beyond the general recession, we all know about the unemployment rates, and depends where you're from, but the national average is what, about 9.5% or something like that. And we know about 60% of the people who use transit use it to go back and forth to work. And we also know, even though our critics don't seem to understand this point, if you don't have a job, you're not going to be taking transit back and forth to work. So I think the good news here is we're starting to see a turnaround. Now, whether the third quarter numbers will still reflect that, who knows? Because unfortunately, many transit systems were still having to raise their fares or cut their service or do those kinds of things. But I think there's hope on the way. When you begin to delve into some of those statistics, there's a little more hope, and particularly, I think, some great hope for us in this audience. For example, we find in the second quarter that of the 28 light rail systems in the country, 16 of them had significant increases in ridership in that second quarter. So more than half are on the way up. And some phenomenally on the way up. Of course, our friends in King County, just north of here, opened a new station since we all met together, and their light rail continues to do quite well. The light rail here in TriMet, for the same reason as new services come on, continues to do well. So there's some hopeful signs. In communities that have heavy rails, subways, elevated trains, places like that, 11 of 15 of those systems saw increases in ridership. Nationally up about 2.2%, something like that. So that's a good sign that's coming back. Commuter rail, again, it was very patchy figures, about 13 out of 27 up. All these numbers are much higher and much better in terms of the recovery that they reflect than were the bus systems. By and large, only a couple of the major bus systems were up at all. And I think it just says one more time that in those communities that are making the investment, in high-quality transit, that are tying it together in good land use and good policy, even in tough economic times like this, Americans are making good use of those systems. So I think there is hope, and I hope you can see it that way. I think there's hope in another way. We continue to do amazingly well at the ballot box around the country. This year, a lot of renewals of levies and things of that sort for continuing support around the country. And so far this year, we have won 81% of those. Yeah, you can give yourselves a round of applause. That's a good thing, because again, we're always told people don't want taxes. There's no such thing as taxes. We can't do that. And yet 81% of the time this year, when they had a chance to go to the ballot booth and raise their taxes or continue a tax that was set to expire or issue a bond issue that would have to be paid back by taxes, they said yes. And I think that's an important factor as we go out and work in our communities, is to counteract that continuous nonsense that somehow a tax is an evil and terrible thing and that people don't support it. Yeah, they don't want their taxes wasted. Nobody wants their money wasted, to be sure, but investing in public transit, they repeatedly tell us, is not wasting their money. And it was a pretty diverse set of places. Just look at some of the rail-related initiatives. A bond issue passes in Maine with $4 million for rail. Cincinnati voters reject a charter amendment that would have stopped any rail project, including $185 million for streetcars. Oklahoma City voted to fund a new streetcar system in their area. And of course, one of the real crowning achievements was to see the work that Tom Schrout and everyone did in St. Louis to get a major levy passed there, not only for rail but for their bus system as well. So again, you can, when we tell our story well, when we plan our projects right, when we reach out, create coalitions, we can have a big difference. As we look to this November, there's a lot more ballot initiatives. Neil's got one here in Portland, for example, to replace some buses and do a number of other improvements that are clearly needed here. And, you know, you read some of the rhetoric in the paper about that initiative, and you wonder what planet these people are from. I mean, we need new buses. We need new equipment. That is not a negative thing. That's a great thing. So, Neil, good luck on that. And I'm sure... don't know how many of us can register to, how long you got to be here to register to vote in Portland, but I think you have early voting here. Maybe I can do it before I leave today. I don't know, but I certainly hope that that will be approved. Just last Friday, I was in Tampa, Florida, helping them a little bit with a ballot initiative there, where finally Tampa might move forward with long-delayed plans on their light rail and their bus system and other aspects as well on that. And we have initiatives in California, Hawaii, Florida, Michigan, Texas, South Carolina, a whole slew of states in November. And so I think as you go back to your communities, as you work on these ballot initiatives, reminding them that the money goes for good things that benefit the community, benefit everyone, benefit them, whether they ride the system or not, is what's important. And I know you will go back and work hard and remember to vote if you've got one of those things on your ballot initiative. There's another kind of voting, though, that we need to talk about, and I believe Earl might have touched on this a little bit yesterday, and that is the whole thing of authorization. When we were together in Boston last year, we knew that the authorization for the transit and highway programs had just expired. And regrettably, the Congress had not seen fit to deal with a long-term bill, and we were in kind of a mess. Well, we're still in kind of a mess, but again, some good progress has been made in the course of the last year. We still don't have that long-term bill, but we did get at least a medium-term extension that's kept us alive. And I don't know where you were on Labor Day, but on Labor Day, I was awakened very early in the morning with a call from Deputy Secretary Pecori telling me that I ought to probably pay attention to what the president was going to say in a speech later that day, because I might like it. And, you know, John was right. I didn't mind being called early on a holiday because I did like it very much, because President Obama announced his full support for an authorization program and for moving the country forward on more investment in infrastructure and more jobs that come with it. And I'm not going to steal the work of the next panel. They are more than able to describe it much better than I can. But to have the President of the United States understand what infrastructure investment means, what it means to communities, is just a breath of fresh air as far as I'm concerned. And it really was good to hear him do that. And the other nice thing about it is he does it repeatedly. So just this past week or so on I think it was Columbus Day, there he was in the Rose Garden. I told Secretary LaHood, I saw him the other day, and I told Secretary LaHood, boy, you look beautiful in that Rose Garden next to the president talking about infrastructure investment. And he sort of smirked at me. I'm not sure if he knew how to take that, but I meant it as a real compliment. I meant it as a real compliment because it does look good, because having our leaders out there leading is what it takes. But they need somebody to lead, and that's us. So we have to make sure that we support the president, that we support the secretary, that we support all that are pushing forward for the right thing. That means lots of different things. It means between now and Election Day, which I guess is what, 12, 13 days from now, we have to really go back to our homes, and we have to remember we got to put a final push on. We got to make sure that the right people get elected to Congress so that when the president does step out and lead, you know, everybody's always saying, well, leaders don't lead these days. Well, he is leading, and we need to support and follow and push And, if there's a candidate out there from any party, any stripe that supports what we believe in, we need to work hard to make sure that that person gets elected, because the president needs people to work with. He can't work with people in Congress that only know one word, N-O. That won't do it for us, and we need to work very, very hard to see that it's happened. Now, APTA's done a lot of things in this regard, and we have a lot of information available. Hopefully you're familiar with our various websites, apta.org and publictransportation.org, because we have materials you can use that you can help lay out for elected officials and elected official wannabes. We also would ask you to go to our website for another reason. We've been collecting signatures, and we've got thousands, tens of thousands of signatures from all over the country, all 50 states that we have now. But we would like to get millions of signatures, and you can help us do it. Go to publictransportation.org and just sign up. Get your family to sign up. Get your church friends to sign up, your community group. I don't care what it is. Get them to sign it. Wouldn't that be great to be able to take and present millions of signatures to the President and the Congress? That would be just one more way of showing what's going on. By the way, if you haven't signed up yet, and I'm sure many in this audience have signed that petition, when you go to that expo that Rex talked to us about, you can go to the APTA booth. Rich Weaver, put up your hand. Rich and Art Gazzetti and Nicole Dupuy and other people from my staff will be there. We've got a little computer. You can sign up right there. It's so easy. Even I did it. So I think you can possibly do it there. Well, there's lots of other issues we're working on. I won't take a lot of time with them. We still have to push hard for appropriations. Patty Murray, just across the river here, has been working hard to get good investment levels in the Senate. We've got some decent level investment coming out of the House in that regard. Lots to work do there. There's a lot of nitty-gritty stuff, commuter train liability caps. Boy, there's a sleeper that I won't go into a lot, but really important if we're going to move forward with a lot of rail expansion, that we deal with that right. And one thing that's really important to so many of our riders, the transit commute benefit. You know, that little bend in the tax law that finally puts using transit on the par with parking your car. The transit piece expires on December 31. Guess when the car piece expires? It doesn't. So between now and December 31, it's another thing we got to worry about and help the Congress see the right way to move on. Well, it's important we do these things. I know you've got the spirit and the energy to do it. Use the resources that you find here in Revolution. Use the energy that we get from each other and go back home and do it right. Well, let me review some of the progress that's been made in the last year on Revolution. Here in Portland, of course, we were excited last year. The Green Line either was about to open or just had opened. I'd forgotten which it was. And as I see it go zipping past my hotel, looks like it's doing well to me a year later. In Los Angeles, the East Side extension of the Gold Line opened in November of 2009. In Minneapolis, the Hiawatha Light Rail Line added another station, and the North Star project moved ahead. In Seattle, the Tukwila station on the Central Link opened up. I've had a chance to ride that a couple times. So there was a lot of openings last year, and I'm sure I've left a couple of them out here. There were some brand new systems. The Capital Metro Rail down in Austin that so many times we've been hearing about at this conference, and we feel like we gave birth to that, I think, because of all the presentations, and it's really good to see it working. I already mentioned the North Star commuter rail up in Minneapolis. And here in just a month and a few days, if you're down in Dallas, down in Big D, you'll see one of the largest rail openings that we've seen, some 24 miles of light rail transit that'll be opening up on the Green Line. Just another step forward down there in Dallas. I always seem like I highlight them because I got to admit, back in the 80s when I heard they were going to build all this rail in Texas, I was skeptical. And just to see them do it year after year and to see those Texans use it, I happened to be down there for the Texas State Fair here a couple weeks ago. No, I didn't have any fried butter, and I skipped the fried cheesecake. But I did have the deep-fried Frito pie. It actually was pretty good, I hate to admit, but I'm not sure that's sold in the health food stores here in Portland, but it's everywhere in Texas, I'll tell you that part, on that thing. And to ride the piece of the Green Line that opened and just see the thousands and tens of thousands of people using that to get back and forth to the fair or to the various football games there has been kind of an amazing thing to see. Well, certainly the other push that we began to talk about seriously last year and just has continued at great speed this year is the whole notion of high-speed rail. And again, here the President has stepped out, shown his leadership. FRA has moved very judiciously and very quickly to get out grants, to work through a lot of problems, and I think that's something we need to watch because, you know, Revolution is all about a lot of things. It's about community, and it's about low-income equity, and it's about housing, and it's about transportation, it's about that. And for me, one of the things about is tying it all together. And so a logical extension of what we do in our local communities is to support the efforts in high-speed and inner-city rail. So you didn't have enough on your plate. I knew that, so that's why we've added that particular thing to your plate. But take a look at it, because if we do it right, if we tie all this together, if we add in good community development, if we add in good housing strategy, if we do all these things, 50 years from now, we'll be able to look back together. And what are we going to say? We're going to say, wow, who was it way back then in the 20-teens who did all this that is so great? And they did it way back then when it was so cheap to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, you are those leaders. Congratulations. It is great fun to be with you. Thank you very much.